Our Old Testament reading from this morning is perhaps one of the most troubling and challenging texts for me in the entire Old Testament, the binding and sacrificing of Isaac by Abraham. Indeed, as a father has 2 sons and 2 daughters, I have a hard time reading this passage. I can't imagine willingly killing and sacrificing my own child. I find it abhorrent. Indeed, what would I do if God asked me to sacrifice any one of my children? And by extension, how could God ask someone to do such a thing? What would I do if God tested me with such an extreme test of faith? Now, granted, times are different now. To our modern Western mindset, the concept of human sacrifice and the type contemplated in our reading today as a burnt sacrifice, where the sacrificial victim, something of extreme value, is slayed and burned in its entirety, thereby becoming a perfect sacrifice as a way of showing trust and dependence on a God, or garnering the favor of that God, or as an atonement for guilt. All of this is quite foreign and abstract for us in our modern-day Western world. Indeed, to show you how reprehensible it is, the Greek word for this has been used to describe something more modern that is equally and truly horrific. And that word is Holocaust. And it's come to represent not just the sacrifice of a whole victim, but the extermination of a whole people. But for the ancients in the Levant, that's the area broadly from Lebanon, Syria, Israel, Jordan, this was not unheard of. The Canaanites in different time periods, called the Phoenicians in particular, were known to sacrifice infants to their gods, Baal and Moloch, something that the later Israelites were repeatedly castigated by their prophets, from Moses to Jeremiah, for participating in. For God himself finds it reprehensible. In Leviticus 18, verse 21, God says to his people Israel, "You shall not give any of your children to offer them to Moloch, and so profane the name of your God. I am the Lord." Even the cremation of a human body is abhorrent to God, according to Scripture. For it says in Amos 2, verse 1, For 3 transgressions of Moab, and for 4 I will not revoke the punishment, because he burned to lime the bones of the king of Edom. But this is not so for the pagans of that time. In the ancient Phoenician city of Carthage in modern-day Tunisia, there is an archaeological site called the Topheth, where the remains of about 20,000 infants burned by fire have been found. The prophet Jeremiah describes another site by the same name outside of the walls of Jerusalem. And in Jeremiah 7, verse 31, it says, "And they have built the high places of Topheth, which is in the valley of the sons of Hinnom, to burn their sons and daughters in the fire, which I did not command, nor did it come to mind." And recent archaeological evidence has been found suggesting that infant sacrifice happened in ancient Greece as well. Perhaps this explains why Abraham did not seem to evenly bat an eye when God told him to sacrifice his son as a holocaust. Indeed, in verse 10, where it says, "Then Abraham reached out his hand and took the knife to slaughter his son," the Hebrew word that's translated as slaughter is only used in Scripture to describe human sacrifice. I suspect, although this is purely conjecture on my part, that in the time of Abraham, it may have been perhaps not commonplace, but not unheard of. This might also explain why Isaac did not even put up a struggle, according to the text. For in societies that practice human sacrifice, to be a sacrificial victim is to hold a position of honor. For in that you are securing the favor of the divine for yourself, your family, your tribe, your city, even your country. Several years ago, Sarah and I went to Belize. We were on a cruise of the Western Caribbean, and we went to, I think I told a story one time of heading up this winding river on a speedboat. Anyway, our end goal was this archaeological park where there was one of these huge Mayan pyramids, but there was also a ball court for the famous Mayan game Pocketok. And in this game, although archaeologists don't know for sure, they theorize that the winners were sacrificed to the gods, because only the best is offered to the gods. With my athletic prowess, I would never be sacrificed, I can assure you that. We like to think in our modern society that we have moved beyond such things. But friends, I think we can see this easily being played out in our postmodern society, especially in these turbulent cultural times, where the unborn are sacrificed on the altar of self-actualization and convenience, or our children and youth are sacrificed mentally and physically, piece by piece, to the god of extreme progressivism, where it is a mark of honor for narcissistic parents to engage in the fantasy of medical lunacy, masquerading in the guise of compassion for the oppressed. Or our elderly or infirm are sacrificed on the altar of utilitarianism and self-control. My brothers and sisters, with this cult of death, there is a Holocaust going on around us in our time. For me, this and this alone should cause us to want to spread the gospel to those who have not heard it. And it should make us pray as we prayed in the litany, Lord, have mercy upon us and our land.